Yeah, I was up there in November last year. Goodness, the sun didn't come up until like 9, 10 o'clock, and it never got very high, so it was always not really bright.
So we're live on YouTube.
Oh.
Oh, you did?
And that was, and then I think there's some days.
Do you get them in the full night and that thing just decides to start by itself?
Yeah.
Is it, so is the, is it?
It's happened
off
several
period?
times.
Or is it?
Mike's
Is it?
Well, like, this, no.
You're on black, we can't see you, Patrick.
Okay.
It's just
true.
your white head.
And it goes off so long.
So why is this
So you can really, it's really hard to.
Well, it's just right behind you. Just the bright background.
I would do that myself.
Because it's still.
I'll show my camera, she's right behind you.
Like you usually do it, instead of waiting to get ready to go.
I think I'm good. Yep.
Yeah, and you get up at 2 or 3 in the morning, it's like, oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Have you been?
Good.
I didn't get
Took a couple days off. Got out of the office for a couple days. And
Yeah.
in the middle of like, just good, just good. Not doing too much, just relaxing.
Well, I'm here for
What you should Everybody
Yeah, it's a summer guy.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I think Jim Pritchard was gonna join us
Oh, okay.
online for the archives.
my stickers on, because I was gonna talk about rezoning.
Take on another challenge.
Kevin,
I didn't get to.
Kevin, when do you, kids gonna watch his kids, I said. Right.
Okay.
So what do you do on your days off?
Well, my nieces and nephews,
Okay, no land, okay.
ate too much
Oh, I see, I
barbecue.
got the updated
Did you get
agenda.
the updated one?
Yeah, I did.
No, I ate too much barbecue. I woke up and I was sick. On Wednesday, I was sick. And that was about it.
My son is
Yeah.
and he'll go out and barbecue until he gets sick.
Yeah. I ate too much barbecue. Had a good time though. Can't.
Well, good. Little wine or
Yeah.
beer.
Mostly beer. My siblings were beer drinkers.
Well, I don't have to do any more of that for a while.
You have everybody out at the pool? Or?
No, we went over to Brian's, over to Lake Gardner,
Mhm.
and down
I
to
did,
Woodbury.
yeah, we did.
And South Lake watched the fireworks. in the park.
Yeah. That's good. Got to relax a little bit.
You could have done it.
Steve's over here.
I think conversations.
Yeah, Mike, I didn't see anything blow up on TikTok.
Oh, TikTok banned me from posting.
You're not in TikTok jail, are you?
No, one more strike and I'm not gonna risk it.
But you can find those on TikTok.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah. I got a friend of mine at Parkville, and every so often he says, I can't talk to you right now, I'm in TikTok jail.
I think they would have gotten more.
He sometimes gets a little wild on his post.
Non,
Yeah,
yeah, stuff that's not
gotta behave yourself.
Yes. He goes off on a wild tangent once in a while.
I know the type.
But he says after he does it, he feels better.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. He's not one of them. Yeah, Chinese are better at that.
He says he's Phil Bennett.
I'm not in this.
You can go home with all the phone you what? You can go home? No, I stay around. Sometimes there's phone stop ringing and the email stop ringing. Yeah. All the ways to that would be, KDOT, HDR, review, water source plans.
Sure.
Once construction.
Yeah, I'll make a,
That will slow down.
Yeah. I keep telling myself,
all right, I have 7 o'clock. I would like to call the July 6th DeSoto City Council meeting to order. We'll start with roll call, please.
Hunter Michael,
Here.
Daniels,
Here.
Murdoch,
Here.
Ritter,
Here.
Lane,
Here.
all are present.
All right, I would invite you all to please rise. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Tonight, sorry, did I hear something? Okay. I think if it's okay with everybody, I would like to move DeSoto Days, item 4F to be considered ahead of 4A. If that-
I'll make a motion, such.
Okay? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. First item tonight's a consent agenda. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have approval of the minutes from June 15th. Council meeting, approved pay ordinance number 952, approved joint use agreement with AT&T for Lexington Avenue reconstruction. Item D, authorize the city administrator to sign lease documents for Kubota equipment and for the Parks and Recreation Department. And item E, authorize city administrator to sign lease documents for Bobcat skid steer loader and bucket for the street department. Is there anything, any item anyone wished to remove from the consent agenda for further discussion? Someone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Hunter Michael,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, item 2 is call to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not listed on tonight's agenda. The comments that are discussed under call to public may or may not be acted on by the council during this meeting. There is a 4-minute time limit. Does anyone wish to address the council under call to public? Please step forward, state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Mike Caldwell. I live at 8412 Corliss, and I'd like to take a few minutes to discuss about the special use permit application that you'll be receiving later this month regarding the proposed cement batch plant out at 83rd and Gardner. I've been working with a group of neighbors. I've met with representatives of HAM. I've met with city staff, went through the planning commission meetings. We actually had a couple meetings on it to allow more time to address concerns. And it was approved, 3-2 in the last city council meeting. Throughout the process, we've raised the same concerns over and over. One of the concerns is the noise around the plant. They want to start operations at 2 in the morning, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Also, we're worried about the wear and tear on our local roads. These trucks weigh 85,000 pounds loaded, so we're concerned that that's going to abuse our roads. The biggest discussion throughout the process and at the planning commission meeting, and it was also raised by the people who voted against it, was the increase in the large truck traffic. And I laid this out in the email to you all this morning, but the application is asking for an increase of daily truck visits by 60. And that's, in reality, you know, a visit is a trip coming and a trip going. So you're really looking at 120 trucks on our local roads every day, 365 days a year possibly. That was the primary concern by everybody. I think everybody here realizes the limitations of 83rd Street. There's some curves, there's some dips and hills and side roads coming in at really difficult places. The 83rd Street's lined with driveways on either side. It's a major bus traffic route, high school kids going to school, bus stops along the way. So we really feel that this type of traffic every day on our roads is going to make everybody going about their daily business. It's going to be a risk. Ham has indicated the destinations when they leave 83rd and Gardner, they'll head west on 83rd, 50% of them will, on to Lexington, past the middle school, past the high school, and on out west. Another 25% will go west on 83rd also, and then turn south on Kill Creek, and then the rest of them will head east, and after dealing with Cedar Creek Hill, they'll make their way to K7. I think this is I think it's time to start thinking about this. I know you all haven't seen the detailed application. The one I saw, it's huge, and it's we've waded through it all, and I think we need to really think and realize what we're getting into, and perhaps maybe we need to consider a different location. You know, we got all this type of work going on out west now. We got cement plants going. We got a rock quarry out there. We got all this construction. We're improving the infrastructure to handle truck traffic. And it's right next to K10 practically.
About 30 seconds left.
Okay, so to wind this up, you know, I hope we can, you know, really think about this, realize what we're getting into, and have a good discussion in a few weeks when it comes up. So thank you. You guys need a play clock up here.
I know, sir. I know. I should flip it around, so thank you for your comments, Mike. Anyone else under call to public? Maybe we'll have to invest in a clerk-operated play clock, right?
Shot
Shot
speaker
clock.
clock, yeah. Have a buzzer with the NBA.
All right. Okay, we'll move on then. Item 3 is old business. We do not have any, so we'll go to item 4F, DeSoto Days temporary use permit.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. It's that time of year again where the DeSoto Days Committee has submitted their temporary use permit, parade permit, and noise permit for our annual event. I was surprised to realize it's almost 60 years that DeSoto Days has been going on. So it's really grown and become a pretty fun and interesting time as the few times that I've gone. Anyway, this is a very similar application. You've seen it many times. The only thing that particularly changes are the dates that we're operating. So with that, I'll stand for any questions you may have. The application fee has been paid, and we're all up to date on everything. So it's a green light as far as staff is concerned.
Any questions from council on the DeSoto Days temporary use permit application? I think we're ready for a motion now.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we approve the temporary use permit for DeSoto Days.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mayor Walker,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Parade, do we have to do each of these parade permits separate, or is that part of the temporary use permit? Is the parade permit and noise permit part of that?
Well, in theory, you're supposed to. I mean, I think
All
they
right.
could have been all together if you amend the motion.
We got time, we'll do them one at a time. Go ahead, parade permit, please.
I'll make a motion, we approve the parade permit.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Walker,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes,
Daniels,
Yes.
Hunter-Michael.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Noise permit.
and I'll make a motion, we approve the noise permit for DeSoto Days.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Walker,
Yes.
Hunter-Michael,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes,
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for carrying on the 60-year tradition. I wasn't at the first one, but I was probably 10 years old when I recall my first one, winning the frog jumping contest.
oh, we should get
Put on
that.
by the J.C.'s.
Oh my God, we need to bring that back. Maybe we need to bring that back. Well, thank you,
I
and
have
thank you,
seen that
city,
picture.
for your sponsorship and help and everything that goes on. Lori, thank you for your sponsorship
You're welcome.
as well. So maybe the whole city council should write in the parade as well. Think about that.
Thank you for
Good
your
idea.
efforts.
Thank you.
Or at least the frog jumping contest.
Now, we will go on. Item 4A, consider task order 4 with GBA for owner's rep services for Southwest Growth area.
Yes, council, this is a continuation of GBA's assistance with several aspects of the infrastructure projects we're currently undertaking to support economic development in the Southwest Growth area. This is, the three previous task orders have been done under the on-call services procedures that we established a few years ago. This is a continuation of two of those. The biggest one is a continuation of GBA's work as owner's representative services associated with the sewer treatment plant expansion, progressive design build procurement process there. Most of the fee associated with that has to do with the completion of a required submittal from KDHE. It's called an anti-degradation report. Whenever you expand your wastewater facilities, like we're about to do, requires a new permit from KDHE, and they require a comprehensive review of alternatives and impacts, and there's a lot of effort goes into that. So most of the task order, most of the fee for the task order is associated with that effort, but also associated with the administrative efforts that are ongoing in standing up that project and keeping that project rolling from an owner's rep perspective. Other items associated have largely to do with assistance of the city, assistance for us in administering the sewer line work, the sewer extensions to Panasonic and Astra and to the Flint development. We have two big sewer projects going on, currently under design. GBA is helping us with design review, submittal review, recommendations on pump station components and also flow projections, things like that. So smaller items are those first two tasks, and task 3 is the larger one. In total, the task order totals $164,598. Most of this, as I indicated, the $97,000 figure is part of the wastewater treatment expansion, and it will be paid for initially out of contingency funds within our budget, but eventually would be reimbursed from the arrangement we're working, negotiating with Panasonic for that. The other two are tasks related to the sewer extensions, and again, we are negotiating with Panasonic to reimburse those costs as a separate item in the TIF negotiations. Recommend approval of task order 4 and authorizing me to sign that on the city's behalf.
Questions from council?
I'll make a motion to approve task order 4 and to authorize the city administrator to sign that agreement.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Hunter-Michael,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes,
Motion carries.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4B, consider change order number 2 for the Ottawa Street project. Joe?
Mayor and Council. This is a request to, during the construction of Ottawa Street, the electronic gate out by the park was not picked up, and it was in conflict with the storm sewer construction. So the contractor removed the gate. It's out on site, and this is a change order to have the original gate installer come back, reinstall the gate, and make it operable again.
Okay, any questions on the change order? This is the last item on that?
This will be it.
project,
This will take
right?
care of it. Yep.
The railroad quit sending us bills.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Questions from council or a motion to authorize?
I'll make a
change?
motion, we authorize change order number 2, in the amount of $7,200.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right, thank you. Item 4C, consider documents related to the general obligation bonds for the Merck Benefit District and related project. Before we get into the discussion or presentation, I would like to formally thank Merck for their efforts and leadership in delivering the 87th Street Trail project. That's a project we would not have completed it yet. And I just, for one, really appreciate your efforts to make that project happen. Thank you very much.
So, council, I put in your packet a little memo. Essentially, what we're doing here is preparing to issue the bonds to finally close out the project. So, what you have before you is Ordinance 2582, and then the Resolution 2011 is the details on the sale of the bonds. So, recommend approval of Ordinance 2582 as written. And just so, I addressed in the memo, but the way we did this was the trail, the cost for the trail, the city, that's gonna be a city at large assessment, and then the remainder for 87th Street, that will be assessed against Merck's property. So,
Question from council? Ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 2582 as written.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right. So now we need to, you want to?
Yep, Resolution 2011 just deals with the details of the bonds, so that, we need to adopt that in connection with the ordinance. And that's Resolution 2011.
Any questions regarding Resolution 2011 from council?
I'll make a motion we approve resolution 2011 as written.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much. Item 4D, consider ordinance number 2583, adopting Planning Commission's recommendation to rezone 3 acres of property in the vicinity of 79th and Gardner Road from RO to M1.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the first step in the process. Ultimately, this application was made because there is a concrete batch plant that's being proposed for this location, and that will be coming to you on July 20th. The applicant is here tonight representing Ham Companies, so I give them an opportunity to speak after staff report and any questions the council may have. What you have is a request to rezone 3 acres of property. It is part of the special use permit area for the sand plant operation. It is west of Gardner Road and south of 79th Street. Property is owned by Dave Penny, but is leased to Ham Companies. Notification letters were sent out to property owners within the 200-foot buffer. We did hold a public hearing and the Planning Commission meeting, and the minutes from that meeting are attached. As indicated, staff has met with several of the residents nearby about the rezoning, and primarily the concerns have been with the special use permit. But the reason we're doing a rezoning is because concrete batch plants are considered a manufacturing operation, and under our code, it isn't allowed in rural suburban, so it needs to be rezoned to M1 or could be rezoned to M2, and then it would require a site plan. So the applicant requested an M1 district for the zoning. As you can see, the location is shown on the map on the screen, and then also I do have an aerial photo for the area. As you can see, the sand plant operation has expanded quite a bit and actually will probably be moving into this area to the west of that current water area fairly soon. And so that also would trigger some of the things that we're talking about. Once again, it's special use permit. It's kind of hard to separate some of the things as you think about what's happening, but you have to focus on the rezoning. It is a two-step process. It needs to be rezoned first before the special use permit can be considered. With that, I will jump into the review of the zoning compatibility factors. First of all, the character of the neighborhood. As you can see in the aerial photo, there's mining operations to the east, vacant agricultural lands surrounding the proposed zoning area. The railroad is to the south, and then you can see a small bit of housing across the railroad tracks that is near or the special use permit area in the mining operation. Staff believes that the change in zoning, once again, will not affect any of the districts around the proposed zoning area. Compatibility of the proposed zoning. The zoning would create a pocket of M1, but if you look at the zoning map, the areas north of 79th Street, a great portion of them, as you can see the bottom area in gray, is zoned light industrial. Primarily that whole sort of thumb area, if you will, along the Kansas River is rural suburban and light industrial, so there's quite a bit of M1 in that area. Suitability to which the property has been restricted under its existing zoning. As I explained a little earlier, the tract could not be put to use under the existing RO zoning category for the proposed use. Length of time the property has remained vacant. It has been vacant since it was annexed into the city of DeSoto. The extent to which there is a need in the community for the uses allowed in the proposed zoning. One thing that's obviously happening in DeSoto is we are growing. We've got a lot of housing going on, proposed housing, obviously a 9,000 acre industrial park to the south of us, or part of the city now, that will require what I call these bricks and mortar types of operations. Certainly a concrete batch plant along with the sand plant operation is something that would be beneficial. Currently right now those trucks are either coming from Shawnee, Lawrence, or Olathe that deliver concrete. So they are coming to DeSoto one way or another. So that's kind of an important thing that was talked about quite a bit during the Planning Commission and their discussion on this item. As far as required services, electricity is available nearby. There is no direct or easy access to potable water. I do feel like that was a negative as far as the zoning request was concerned. Parking will all be on site for this location. There won't be very many full-time employees. There will be some employees that do come and go, but primarily there could be 2 to 3 there during the course of the work shift. So all parking will be on site. Environmental impacts from the proposed zoning. Staff believes the rezoning of just the RO to the M1 will not have an insignificant impact on the environment, as the whole area itself is really part of the sand plant operation. So, and that permit was granted in 2017, and it runs for 10 years. So there will be operations, whether or not this rezoning is approved or denied, the sand plant operation will continue for this location. Economic impact. Allowing uses that do not currently exist will provide for additional economic activity in DeSoto. We will get sales tax revenues from the sale of the concrete, and then also any additional taxes from the change of use on the property itself, from agricultural to a potential concrete batch plant. Extent which the zoning amendment may detrimentally affect nearby property, we don't feel like there'll be any anticipated detrimental effect because the residential areas, once again, are on the south side of railroad tracks. There is a significant natural buffered area of native trees that have grown on either side of the railroad track. And once again, those homes are probably, the nearest ones are probably about 800 feet or so from this proposed area. This area is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The future land use plan does show this area is light industrial, and recommendation of professional staff is to approve the rezoning request. We did take this to the Planning Commission. They did hold a public hearing. There was significant comment and discussion on this item, but ultimately the Planning Commission recommended approval of ordinance, or is recommending approval of ordinance number 2583, rezoning 3 acres from RO to M1 in the vicinity of 79th and Gardner Road. And with that, I will stand for any questions you may have. I would point out that I did include all the zoning districts and uses, and under mining, actually I didn't highlight this, but sand, gravel, and clay and ceramic mining is allowed in all our districts except for RH and C1, and with a special use permit. And then also I did highlight the non-metallic mineral product manufacturing, which shows that it is only allowed in M1 with a special use permit, and in M2 it is permitted by right. So with that, I will stand for any questions you may have, and representatives from Ham Company are here tonight if you've got questions for them.
Okay. Questions from council on the, for staff on the presentation?
Just on the description of the property, one that's included in the ordinance does not reflect what was included in the application, and when it references a particular tract out of the quitclaim deed, it's a little bit different description, and I don't know if anybody has checked to make sure that those align, that those correspond to the same.
I have not.
Yeah, I don't know, Patrick, if you want to address that, we did talk back and forth quite a bit about your question there, so. I'll let you-
Yeah, because I want to be sure that eventually when we talk about what got rezoned, are we clear of what that tract is?
We did refine the legal description. We shrunk it down and we rewrote it. It's what we had originally given Brad was the full parcel. We shrunk it down to that 3, but it could be reviewed by an engineer on our side just for accuracy if
Yeah,
you
or
desire.
surveyor.
Yeah.
Yeah, because actually it's expanded, what's in the ordinance is expanded from what's in the quitclaim deed that was included in the application.
Yeah, the
So
quitclaim
it's kind of
deed.
the other way around.
Well, the quitclaim deed showed 5 different legal descriptions, as I recall.
Right, and this
And-
has one, it had one of them highlighted, track 2.
Right, right, and it's actually, I think, we can double check it, but I'm pretty confident that what we gave is very close to that red highlighted area.
Brandon, do you have the applicant's name and address for the record?
I do. He's been to planning commission, I think.
I'd be happy to say a few words
Sure,
about the application
sure.
if it's appropriate.
Yep.
So my name's Patrick Watkins. I'm an attorney. I am here on behalf of the Ham Companies. Feels a little weird to be here because I've had a team of consultants and staff from our company with me the last several visits, and we've had good interactions with staff, and we appreciate their thorough review. One subtle distinction I ought to just quickly make is that I think the rezoning was unanimously approved by the Planning Commission. It was the SUP that got the 3-2 approval. Tonight, you are looking at the rezoning. You'll be looking at an SUP if the rezoning is approved on a future date. But we're pleased to bring this project to you all. These are 2 important resources for DeSoto's growth, and you all are poised to grow, obviously, and both sand and concrete ready mix are important resources. It'll bring stability and accessibility for your growth. We've made clear on a couple of occasions this is not related to the Panasonic project. This is for local growth and sort of organic DeSoto growth. We did a full citizen participation plan. I think we did as well as we could with regard to reaching out to neighbors. We sent a letter. We did identify individuals and key property owners that were very close, and we did our best to go meet with them. We met with several people. Certainly couldn't please all of them, but we tried to get their feedback and integrate it into our process. One of the things you'll hear about in the future meeting is that we did a sound study to make sure that the sound coming from our sand operation and the concrete ready mix plant are appropriate for the area. We have a full presentation that we can give you during that SUP, but the bottom line tonight is that we don't know of a better site than this. The sand is on site, which is critically important. We also have a natural buffer that's a little bit unusually large for this area. You can find our concrete batch plants with much smaller buffers and much more activity from a residential scale. This one's really well protected. And of course, the sound study, which you'll get a copy of before the upcoming hearing, which we think is really useful. There are questions about truck traffic, and we'd be happy to respond to those. I think there's a few things to keep in mind. One of those things is that if it's really to sort of analyze the alternatives. If the concrete batch plant's not located at this site, we do have to transport sand, and the sand that's going to be used for these concrete plants is likely going to come from this site. That sand is already on site. It's one less truck on the road to make the concrete. The other thing that's really important to remember is that on 83rd Street at K7 is really the closest batch plant. A lot of those trucks are going to be coming down 83rd Street. We can't control the growth. We can't control the market demand for concrete. A lot of these things are pre-cooked. We're just trying to serve the need. We have done a traffic study. We don't know of a better site than this, though. We'll give you more information about the SUP. This is obviously just a prerequisite to getting to the SUP to rezone the property and make it suitable for the concrete batch plant. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions from council for the applicant?
So I think most mine are going to come down in the SUP side because a lot of what's down there is already zoned M1. So as far as just the pure zoning side of it, that's not where most of the questions lie and the concerns.
Yeah, I mean, it's consistent with the future land use map. It's consistent with the local uses, or current uses. I mean, I think we would have a very hard time turning down a rezoning on this property. It's, you know, staff recommends it. It matches our future land use plan, and
Yeah, while a batch plan is being discussed there, we really have to think about those aspects. Is it consistent? And what might any future use be? If it changes hands, if it changes uses, if, so is that an appropriate zone for that parcel? And I would agree it's consistent and meets all the gold.
We thought it was for a lot of years. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's not just not this body. I mean, that.
It's been that way in the comprehensive plan for years.
Yeah, right.
I will say, while that's a good location, everything around it is changing. And you're seeing more residential on 83rd. You're seeing both in DeSoto, between Lexington with Arbor Ridge, between Gardner Road and K7 with the Aspire home. So while that has been a good location, and while it still is, you are seeing the surrounding areas of the traffic patterns that are going to be impacting not country roads anymore, but residential neighborhoods now. So,
But I think even those were always contemplated to be residential neighborhoods, so the composite use is still consistent with what it was viewed to be, even though it wasn't previously developed.
Anything from this side? I don't want to ignore you guys.
No, I'm good for now, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Well,
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2583, an ordinance rezoning property of approximately 3 acres located west of 8150 Gardens Road from RO Residential Suburban to M1 Industrial and Light District.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Walker,
Yes.
Lane,
No.
Ritter,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Item 4E, consider accepting easements and right-of-way for carriage houses number 12. Brad?
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the 12th final, it's actually a replat for carriage houses number 12. As you know, after they build the walls of each unit, they survey them to get an exact square footage, so then they can be recorded and ultimately sold. So this is really dividing the tract into 17 units for sale of basically the condominium process that we've been going through for this project. As you know, the building is up, the walls are in, and the tenant finishes are ready to go as soon as the plat can be approved and recorded. As you know, the Planning Commission did approve the final plat, and the City Council needs to accept easements and the rights of way before we can move forward with signatures to get the final plat recorded with the county. So with that, I will stand for any questions you may have.
All right. Questions regarding the carriage house, Johnson County number 12? Motion, please.
What are we're approving?
Make a motion, we approve the final plat of carriage houses, Johnson County number 12.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Mayor Walker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Item G, 2024 budget discussion.
Yes, Council, this meeting's installment of the 2024 budget will center on the capital improvements plan. We've had several other discussions relating to the general fund, debt service, law enforcement, water and sewer funds. This one will focus on the CIP. I did want to, before I get into the details on that, Brandon did remind me that with the revenue neutral rate notifications that we have to give to the county, tonight is the last regularly scheduled meeting that we would have to discuss our maximum mill levy that we plan on imposing. The last time we discussed that mill levy, remember, initially the proposed budget had maintaining a steady mill rate of 20, the current mill rate, which is 20.4 mils for the city. At the last meeting, we discussed lowering that by 1 mil, and that's where the council landed in those discussions. And we talked about projecting of franchise revenues and other revenues into the city. So, just as a reminder, that 19.4 will be the number that we report to the county. Now, that still does exceed the revenue neutral rate. But that will be the number on that form that we get to the county unless we hear otherwise from them. So, with that said, I think there was consensus on that issue. I think everybody was pretty comfortable with that number. As a maximum, we could always go lower, but as a maximum, we're comfortable with that amount. So,
Where does the revenue neutral land?
Brandon, remind me, if it was 18.9. Yeah.
I think that's right. I don't
We were
have
talking
it.
about being at 19 what?
19.4. Yeah, I think it was a little less than a mil, less than that. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so for the CIP, another overall reminder that within the larger context of the new world we're operating in now, post-announcement with the major economic development pursuits going on now, with the engagement of Shockey Consulting, we are in the middle of a new strategic plan for the community, public involvement, open houses, focus groups, surveys, all this. That'll take the balance of this year. The intent then is for next year to roll that straight into a comprehensive plan revisions possibly city code revisions, but we've already addressed some of that stuff. But then also a more robust update of our capital improvements plan that would include a larger list of potential projects, more engagement with, or actual engagement with the public, and kind of a more precise procedure for that rolling forward. It's important also to understand that at least for the next 2 years, internally, staff and I think the community in general is going to be pretty strapped for time and just time and staff resources and ability to put up with construction projects, focusing on all this infrastructure that we have to do to meet our obligations for Panasonic and Flint. So with that in mind, just as a backdrop, I've taken some recommendations on some smaller projects that we received from department heads, and I've also identified the infrastructure work that we've got going on that we'll need to implement in the next 2 years, and I've worked through that with respect to the 5-year projections and the regular spreadsheet analysis that you've all seen for the past several years. And so I want to step through that. You know, some of the financing stuff has some major changes since the last time we talked about this, and also the projects as well. Most notably, the sewer and the water treatment plant improvements, which are now close to $77 million combined in total with current estimates. So, and I just want to show on the screen here this CIP spreadsheet. I know you can't see this, but just in general terms, this is the 5-year projections. The first page here is the revenue side. The second page is a colorized expense side. This is where really all we have here is the project titles and the amounts and the years we're going to spend the amounts. So this is color coded. The orange stuff here at the top is largely street or transportation improvements. A smaller blue band here is for water. The green here is for Parks and Rec. And then there's a lighter blue shaded gray that's sort of miscellaneous category. And then down toward the bottom, it's the lightest shade of gray. It's all in red text. This is where I've tried to show and incorporate the infrastructure, the Southwest Growth Area infrastructure stuff that's kind of that we're in charge of. So that's kind of the landscape of that spreadsheet, and I know if you've got that digitally, you can zoom in and we can focus in on certain aspects. I do want to hit just a few highlight. I tried in the staff report to be very succinct about the changes since the last time you saw that, changes on the funding, the revenue side, and changes on the appropriations or project side. Within the document, in the spreadsheet, these changes are reflected by red text. So you've seen that before. The previous version, you saw red text for previous changes. These are red text for new changes. That's the red text is on the appropriation side. On the funding side, we have green text to denote changes there. So just a couple things of note then. I just want to step through these quickly. Stop me if I get too long. I know you'll probably just suffer if I'm talking too much, so I'll try and look for body language. But if you have any questions as we go through here, let's just have a conversation. So the first bullet point item is revenue source number 18. So if we reference the table, I'm going to enlarge this for just a minute. It's up here on the revenue side. And then I have source numbers listed over here. And I need to find number 18, excise tax. Right there. So 18, excise tax. You'll notice we've just been projecting typically revenues of the $40,000 to $60,000 range. Here in 2013, projected $712,000 excise tax. So that just reflects an assumption that Panasonic is going to pay their excise tax on the 300 acres, which would be about $1.2 million to the city, half of which we will put directly in the CIP. So that's what that reflects, plus some of the regular, just the regular $40,000 or $50,000 we typically get. So that's a big number that we're projecting will come in by the end of the year. So that's the first thing. So that's how these source numbers, the number 14 federal STP for the 83rd Street Bridge project. So I've tried to identify the numbers so you can look at it in the spreadsheet. But we have, on the 83rd Street Bridge project, this is the one that goes over the Army Railroad. That project has been delayed. It was originally set to let in August, and this is the one where we hire the engineering consultant, we do the design, they've been here, they showed you, proposed alignments and project layouts on that. But it's a KDOT administered project, so KDOT takes that design and lets it out to the community, and KDOT administers that construction project through. Initially, that letting was scheduled for August of this year, but in the recent months, BNSF has objected to the clearance standard. The original bridge doesn't meet the new clearance standard for a new bridge over a mainline railroad. We worked early on with BNSF, tried to coordinate that, but it was kind of late in the game where BNSF has stated a strong desire to meet the minimum clearance. So what that would mean is we'd have to raise the bridge up about 4 feet. So that means additional costs, additional design. Right now, we're asking the Department of Transportation to make a ruling on that, to grant us a waiver if need be. That's still in flux right now. We think it'll be in flux for at least another several months. So that's going to delay us from implementing that. And there's a lot more minutia, and I'd be happy to go into that if you want. But regardless, it's not going to be likely this year to be constructed. So we've taken both the project expenses and the funding source. So here we have $1.5 million allocation from surface transportation funds from the Mid-America Regional Council. Just push that back 1 year. So you'll see that in the spreadsheet. Number 30 is a similar kind of case. We had a revenue source identified for outside funding source for 83rd Street bike lanes. So this was a project that we've had on the list for decades. I think it goes back 10 years, that we were going to get CARS funding for, and we decided to pull the plug on that. And again, it shows up on our CIP as a strong desire to include shoulders and bike lanes for 83rd Street. Pushing that back again because of the corridor study that we're about to embark on. I mean, again, the new world that we're living in, related to future growth projections and things like concrete patch plants that are desired or proposed along the route. We have this grant through MARC, the Planning Sustainable Places grant, which is actually the next item, $60,000 for that. We're going to take a year probably to study that within that process, and that will both help us better establish what the ultimate section, what the ultimate corridor is going to look like, how wide the road needs to be, the plan, the profile view of that. But more importantly, it really opens the door for a better shot at more funding sources through the Mid-America Regional Council or other funding sources that's going to really help us identify where those are and craft our applications toward that. So it makes sense to just put that project off. So that's what's been done. I just essentially removed that from the CIP. So both of those things, the bridge and this thing, will come up on the expense side too. So number 36 is that MARC grant for the corridor study, $60,000 we received from MARC, so that's included in there. Number 37 is a payment from Panasonic for owner's rep services. When I was explaining the GBA contract we just approved, we are negotiating reimbursement of some of those, so you'll see a revenue stream in that for that. Did I miss anything? 31, the general obligation bonds for the 83rd Street project. Again, we pushed that one back for similar reasons as described before. Number 33, GO bonds for future CIP project. We've had $5 million bond in that, as previously presented. We were going to do that this year. We're going to push that off till next year. So that $5 million, essentially, we would identify particular projects within the whole 5-year CIP that would fund. But for now, that's kind of remained as an undefined. But it is a revenue source. So this $5 million bond issue, this has been incorporated in the debt service, the 5-year projections for debt service from the CIP in the debt service fund. So it's all related there. So it does tie back to previous conversation. Number 34, general obligation bonds for the sewer and water plant. So we did issue $12.5 million in proceeds that we did last year, which is part of an overall $87 million projects for both of those projects or bond issues. And number 35 is that large bond issue. And we're in the final stages of negotiating that. There's some updates on that, but we'll have that to the council hopefully very soon. Just the plan to issue those bonds. So more than $70 million of bonds that need to be issued, and there's mechanisms in place currently being negotiated to fund those and guarantee those essentially at no further cost to the city. So then on the expense side or the appropriation side, Riverfest Park Shelter, moving that back a year. 95th Street and Kill Creek Bridge Deck replacement, moving that back a year. That's the one right by the dog park. It's in pretty bad shape, but we just not going to have time to implement that this year. Number 5, 83rd Street Railroad Bridge, described that before. Number HM1, I've left that project in. This is Downtown Streetscape project that totals $475,000 over several years. I know we've had some discussions lately among this group that's become less of a priority in recent years. It's in the out. Let me see what. Can't remember what year I've got that in there. It's not in the 2024, or is it? Yeah, we still do have, or I've got $150,000 in there budgeted for next year for that, and I'm actually still showing $75,000 projected for this year. Not spending any of that, won't be implementing any of that next year. It's still in the spreadsheet, a total of $475,000. So we should probably discuss that a bit if we want to just take that out or what we want to do about that. Moving on, 8th Street bike lanes, so I already talked about that. The next several are new projects that were presented by the department heads, and we've worked all of these into the CIP. So if you look at project number 63, that falls under the street department category. Heated storage at Public Works. So that totals $225,000, and I've got, in the projections, I've got $75,000 in 2025, and then the balance in 2026. So that didn't make the 24 budget as contemplated here, but it is in the projections. The one that did make the 24 budget is the next one, heated wash bay at the Public Works facility. That project total is $450,000. So I've got $150,000 in budget for next year, and then following on for 2025, the balance of that $300,000 in for next year. Project number 62 is under the water department, $275,000 for improvements to the water distribution building. That's slated in 26 and 27. Number 66 is a Riverfest playground. That is slated in the projections for 2025 at $150,000. Number 67, the parking lot and restrooms at Riverfest soccer fields. This is be part of the larger project for the development of those fields. That's in the projections for 2027. That's a $500,000 project. Project 52 through 60. Oh yeah, so 52 through 60 are water and sewer expansion projects. That's the big ones that were, the water tower, water treatment plant expansions, sewer treatment plant expansions, and well field improvements. All of those together, $87 million, and those are the ones that are shown separately by themselves at the bottom of this expense spreadsheet down here, 52 through 60. Shown in there largely to take place still this year, and in most of it in 2024 with some cleanup, follow-up also occurring in 2025. And then the last project on the list to mention is number 61, 83rd Street Corridor Study. Talked about the $60,000 grant we got from Mark. We're obligated to match that with $40,000, but in the total allocation, I've shown $150,000 because I think when we start the scope and fee negotiations, we're gonna want to broaden the scope from what $100,000 would fund. I think we're gonna want a more comprehensive look at things there. So just an added $50,000 to account for that I can foresee we're gonna want. So also attached to the staff report were for the new projects. Brandon worked really hard on getting the department heads to submit these requests, the budget requests. So some of the details about those are included in your packets under Exhibit B. Details from department heads on those new projects we have on the list. That was all I had. Like to, if you have any questions, like to have that discussion. We probably do need to visit a little bit about that downtown streetscape project, and of course anything else you have a question about.
Kevin, do you want to start? I saw you push your button.
Yeah, on the streetscape project, my attitude's changed on that a lot over the years. And can we take the $75,000 that was allocated for this year and consider it for to cover the match for the Mid-America Regional Council study? And then can we take some of next year's funding and use it to make up the balance of the $150 that you want for the Mid-America Regional Council study?
Sure, yeah.
So,
we can certainly do that.
And then can we, I know the issue with downtown is the rub with what the property owners want to do. And Shockey is going to be doing the updated comprehensive plan, correct?
That's right.
So can some of that funding from next year also help maybe to support a landowner outreach in terms of downtown property owners to have, some additional workshop or additional input to see if we can get any kind of movement at all from the downtown landowners, or gauge exactly where that is so that we can stick a fork in it and call it dead, and that way deal with the rest of that money, or maybe actually find some interest in downtown landowners to want to do something. So that's kind of my thought, what to do with that money. One, put it towards our 83rd Street and Lexington study, and then otherwise shift some to comprehensive planning.
Okay. I think that definitely downtown, it needs to follow some sort of engagement process to figure out just what it is downtown is, what people in the community want down or uptown.
Well, we know from the survey that the community wants something to happen there, but the rub is the landowners don't. And nothing can happen until the landowners do.
Right, and the landowners, and what's down there right now, some of it you don't see really changing or leaving in the near future, and it just doesn't vibe with what we would want in a flourishing retail setting downtown. There just isn't really locations and places to do something that people in their mind have us having there. So you go to a downtown Eudora, you go downtown Bonner Springs, and probably many other little towns, but we don't have that building infrastructure down there that's available, or parking, or just a lot of things. I mean, we're really two streets with it. We have a post office, we have a library, we have a fire station, we have a church. you know, you know, those aren't retail type settings. And so even though I agree that, you know, we all know the community wants it, I think that the outreach needs to be there, involving much more understanding, okay, what can happen in what we have left, and is that something we want, or, you know, do we start finding another downtown type area to be developing instead?
Right. Do we focus our energy elsewhere?
Yeah, only because it's not really suitable for most. And you know, there's always that if you want something there, you have to have somebody that's willing to come there too. And so, you know, what is that? You know, it's like if people are really knocking down the door to bring a retail to DeSoto, you know, that doesn't seem to be the case either that I know of, so.
Even with all that said, there may, I mean, taking a look at it, there may be elements that we need to deal with. There may be broken curbs or sidewalks that are our responsibility.
Streetlights.
The street, replacing the street light. I mean, there's, even without any owner involvement, there probably some project that we need to do down there just to maintain a certain level of service for that infrastructure that we own down there, so. But I think that,
I would agree with that, but I think that comes under more than maintenance than actually redoing an entire downtown streetscape. People want to see the old downtown come back alive, but if you want vibrancy down there, that means you need something that draws foot traffic. And what's been going in, KJ's has been great for that, Cause Coffee's been great for that, but then you also have, and it's not knocking these businesses at all, but you've got, in addition to what Lori mentioned, you've got the bank, you've got a law firm, you've got an accountant, you've got a security company, you've got things that are more businesses that aren't going to be a draw to bring people down into the downtown for foot traffic. If the owners can come together and say, we would like a vibrant downtown that is more that way, that's great. I mean, I grew up in Overland Park and I watched their downtown effectively die. And then they've revitalized it, and I've had clients down there, and it's a neat area to be down in again. But it's because there's things to draw people in for foot traffic and entertainment. And there's businesses down there, but it needs that draw, and unless we get the property owners working together and at least some cohesive plan with the city, the property owners, and all parties involved to say this is the vision for downtown, it's going to continue to stall over and over.
It's kind of developed into more of a business park, office business park is way, and there's nothing wrong with that, really, if you think about it. You know, that's part of working and living in communities and you know, kind of a mixed use type thing anyway. You know, it'd be nice if some of those buildings had maybe an apartment above where the offices are below, but I mean, you know, those people that have those type of businesses down there now, the real estate, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it's not what people are envisioning, but they have to go somewhere too.
And if that's what the owners of the buildings want, is to create more of a business district, then okay, fine. It's just a matter of what's the vision for it, including what did the owners envision for it. A business district like that may be a good thing, but it may not match what people are dreaming for, but
That's why we need some comprehensive plan. Get a decision and move on.
So anything to add? I think
I'll save money.
push those projects to
I think that's where the engagement process would help verify that vision.
I'm hearing that this 75 grand, we take it down and move it to the match down here for the Mark thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, even what you had allocated for this year.
Yeah,
that's what this year. I couldn't tell what you had.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is this year.
Okay.
This is this year
Yeah.
projected.
Yeah.
Move
Move that to
down.
Mark.
Sure. And then this 150, this is the most important column. This is what we're budgeting for next year.
Right.
I think reduce this to 50 grand.
I think,
maybe? I mean,
I'd say use it to make your 150 on the Mark. Whatever you need out of that's left. You need another 35.
Oh, okay.
On the
Use that.
83rd.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep. And then
And
the
then
remainder.
30
toward
more
this.
toward Shocky's comprehensive planning process, or
Jockey
whatever.
owner engagement.
Owner
is what
engagement.
they- Yeah, okay. I can do that. Yeah. And so
And
then.
make sure your 150 is enough on 83rd and Lexington study.
We won't know, I mean,
Well, yeah, we'll know that, I don't know if we'll know that before budget needs to be done.
But I mean, it's a 175. When you take that 150 and you divvy it up,
Yeah.
what have you got? And
Yeah,
Because as critical as Lexington and 83rd is to the access to DeSoto being K10 or 83rd from the eastern side of the
yeah.
items.
my original vision was that would be like a $200,000 thing.
I was gonna
I wanted
say,
to
if
go
it were
out and
175,
yeah.
we're getting close to where it's probably gonna end up.
Because
So do we wanna beef this up then to 175? On the corridor study?
Well, do your math on, you were 75 out of 2023 plus 60 is 135. So you need another 15 to get to 150. 65 would put you at 200. That's 65 out of the
Out of the
150.
150, okay.
That leaves you 85,000 still to work with for other things. I think you go 200.
Okay.
as a holder, right, make sure that we get the scope that we need to adequately look at that corridor.
And then, so in this, then, for now, I guess we want, so we still have allocations for that streetscape project for 2025 and 2026, just take them off.
No, I think it could be kind of like you were saying, there's certain obligations that we may want to do that's, kind of,
Okay.
you call it maintenance related,
General
but
maintenance.
general maintenance, but
Sidewalks.
capital,
So we just
maybe some
kinda
drainage
leave 'em.
improvements. I'd leave them.
Well, we'll leave the allocations, maybe we'll define another project. We'll call it something different. We won't call
We'll
it.
call it streetscape, yeah.
We'll call it
Downtown
Main
down-
Street,
Main Street maintenance.
maintenance.
Yeah.
Main Street.
Are we still talking about, water volume up there too, as well? Got some water pipes or anything, or we gonna leave them all at the-
Well, I don't think the streetscape project contemplated that
I just
infrastructure.
didn't know, I mean, if you're gonna go tear it up, you might as well.
Yeah, the thing about streetscape, the water lines are in the alleys, so they wouldn't be impacted, but. So what I'll do is, yeah, I'll just redefine, just rename the project, redefine the project to the maintenance stuff. Okay, good. All right.
83rd Street Bridge. What are you think are, I guess I'm not
What am
feeling
I-
real optimistic about that project.
What am I prepared to say in an open meeting right now? Is that what
Well,
you're asking?
so what I'm, in my mind, what's going around, that was a $1.5 million project, assuming it was gonna get let in October, or August,
Mhm.
right? Being delayed 6 months and possibility of redesign and a completely, I think that's now, easily adding probably another 800 to 100,000 to $1 million on the cost of that project if it goes up 4.5 feet and it's delayed, 9 months to a year to
Probably
get
got $500,000
redesigned.
just in the current delay.
Yeah, right. What I know, what I recall from our previous discussions is based on the older estimates, it was at least $500,000 to raise it up if we would have been able to let it this year.
Yeah.
So I know that it's that $500,000,
Yeah.
plus now
Plus
we have to redesign.
Yeah.
So we've got another 150,000 on it, plus inflation, plus the extra work. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's probably $750,000 that will impact the total cost of that project. We're not gonna see any more match from KDOT, so
No, yeah.
the amount of that project, because it's being delayed, has to grow. I mean,
Well, because we have to do the project.
if we have to, yeah.
We have to do the project.
Well, they won't want to admit it. My understanding from people within the rail industry is they can actually lower the track too.
That's my thought, is like,
They don't want to, but they've looked at it internally
if you
and
need
it's
it.
capable.
Well, I just did a quick math on elevations from where it peels off the spur or off the main line to where it goes under that. And yeah, there's room to drop that track. And But that's my, if we're gonna leave leaving that project in there, I don't think it can stay there at that same dollar amount, I guess is what my long and short story.
Another question on that is, do we lose our additional KDOT funding with it being pushed back, or will they continue?
Yeah, we're coordinating with KDOT and Mark on.
So they'll continue to hold the funding for it?
Yeah, for now. The 12-month delay hasn't jeopardized funding.
Okay.
Yeah. So the 2.3 for construction, you don't think is?
Well, I don't-
think initially we had 1.5 and.
Okay, so you have bumped it up to
Yeah,
quite a
I
bit.
bumped it up, yeah.
Yeah, no, you've got it covered.
We're still not, I don't think we're ready to quite throw in the towel and start complete redesign just yet, but it's.
Did you say the delay did impact our funding?
Did not.
Did not?
It has not, no.
Well, other than the fact that KDOT's not coming up with any more money and neither is Mark, so it's changed the equation. It's more money out of DeSoto's pocket to build that project.
Yeah, the project will be more expensive if we have to
For us.
raise.
Unless BNSF wants to chip in, since they're.
That's right.
There's been discussions.
Since they're the ones demanding it, even though they don't own it.
Yeah, that's about as, we can talk off, individually, if you wanna discuss that more. It's probably about as far as I wanna go here in the open meeting. But it's been a source of frustration. We'll just leave it.
I just say BNSF has not started off being a very good partner coming into the city. I just state that. My estimation.
Mayor, while we're on CIP, can we get Joe to chime in on his thoughts on the projects and whatnot?
Sure.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, looking at the mix and the changes and the proposals?
I mean, overall,
Yeah.
yeah, there's lots to be done. The one thing that I'll probably start working on is looking at how we increase funding for mill and overlays. Right now we're budgeted for about $550,000. We had a couple projects. One project alone was almost $800,000. You're talking about doing a very small subdivision. So prices have gone up exponentially. So that would be one area to look at as we move forward, especially with the economic benefits we're going to get from Panasonic and how we can use some of that money maybe to increase our street program. But you look over the next 3 or 4 years, and right now I won't say we're hands tied, but we've got 3 major infrastructure projects that we're going on between the roadway construction, the water plant, wastewater treatment plant, and all the auxiliary projects that go along with those to make sure that they function appropriately and we're able to get the water to the treatment plant that we need to be able to supply the water, not only to Panasonic, but our citizens. So the next 2 or 3 years is, we have a pretty good focus, but as we get out of that, then start looking at some of our infrastructure, asset management for our water, wastewater. So we have a good idea of what we've got in the ground and what we need to do to establish a maintenance program, and then transportation.
So as you get into the out years, 2-3 years out from now, and I don't know if you guys start talking about, I know you've got some new projects like with the additional bays at the public works
the wash bay,
facility.
and the heated facility.
How much is our maintenance function gonna have to grow by? Because we're gonna have 103rd and Lexington, of course, it was four more miles of 2-lane road to plow. That's probably not a huge impact.
Right.
But
and a lot will depend on what new development starts coming in, and we're going to see more development plans, and we're going to see more residential, multifamily, commercial. That's going to require us to grow staff both on the the maintenance side for water and wastewater as we continue to grow. So I do see that. Mike and I talked early on, and I think there's some plans that have been kind of penciled to kind of take a look at how we would grow and how we would do some things differently to help meet those challenges as the city continues to grow.
I think that'll start to show up in discussions a year from now.
Yeah.
Probably,
The next budget.
Yeah.
Well, when we're doing that comprehensive CIP overall look,
Yeah.
But I remember the other thing is, that remember, so for all the road maintenance stuff, remember what road maintenance used to be in the CIP, right? And
Yeah.
we decided maintenance
took
should be in the
maintenance
CIP,
out,
so
right.
it's now
Right.
just under general.
It's
fund.
general.
Yeah.
But it's still $550,000 a year. We probably need twice that. I don't know.
We haven't grown that.
Oh,
So
you've been
that's-
saying for as long as I've been on council, it's underfunded.
Yeah, it's been underfunded. So there's that aspect of it, and from an asset management standpoint, remember the analysis that Chet had done with the pavement condition indexing and all of that. That kind of laid the base work for determining what that asset management program needs to be. But remember, we also established these funds for the water and the sewer distribution asset management programs too. And they're kind of placeholder funds. We'll talk about that at the next budget thing, with all those associated funds. So that's kind of at least the bookmark is there for funding on those. Spam. But discussions about the asset I think would fill in a lot of the years 3 through 5 here. Because we're going to have these revenues coming in that allow for us some freedom to prioritize a lot of things that have not been prioritized for now.
Yeah.
Then we'll have to, we'll have a wastewater plant and a water treatment plant that can handle the increase in development. So it sets us up for, being in a good spot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
You get all the direction you needed, Mike?
I had a lot of notes right here, so we'll firm that up, make those changes to the CIP, and at the next meeting, I hope we have all the associated funds, all these other funds that we could talk about, the transient gas tax and refuse fund, all those other associated funds. We'll have information on those, and that'll really round out the numbers for the budget. So we need to also generate, typically this time of year, last part of July and in August, we're generating the narrative that goes with the budget to just explain all the decisions that we've made, the intent for the fund, all that. So that's kind of the next 2 steps in the budget process.
Just out of curiosity, what's the difference in size between the 2 water towers?
$500,000? You mean?
Which 2?
The 2 that are on here, one for
Okay,
2 million and one
so-
for 8 million.
Yeah, so Waverly Water Tower, we think that's going to wind up being about 200,000 gallons. And then the one out at Astra is 2 million. So it's 10 times the size. Yeah. So that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
Because we've been filled away from all that for quite a while, right?
10 years.
What's the Waverly one currently? As far as
50,000 gallons?
Is, if we could fill it up?
No, it's 150,000 gallons.
And we're filling it how much?
Not at all. We don't use it at all.
Or use a stem,
Don't use
standpipe.
One time it was half, and then.
Long time it was like halfway up the standpipe, but then standpipe got a leak.
So now
And
it's
it's not, it was just overcharging the water system anyway.
Yeah, it was too high. Yeah,
was
it's
too-
at an elevation that's too high for the current system pressure.
Under parks stuff, so we don't really have anything on soccer field development it seems like there's not much park stuff here.
So there's
I kinda like-
360,000. There's 200,000 this year, and another 360,000 for the sports fields. That's the.
Oh, that's the part
Yeah.
right there. Okay, no.
That'd be the soccer.
Yeah.
And then another $500,000 in the out
And-
year there.
Okay, and do we intend to, is there going to be 200,000 used this year on those? Are we doing anything with those?
We're in the process of planning it. You may remember a couple months ago, we came to you with a survey of Riverfest Park to kind of figure out where we wanted to put pieces. And so we're in the process of still figuring that out, just because the survey took a little longer than we thought it was going to. And then
Didn't the survey create some issues as far as where things go and how they go as well?
Actually, so the original wetlands that we had on the map, once we did another survey, it actually shrank them quite a bit. So we actually have more usable land. We are hoping to get kind of a final layout of where we can put pieces in the next week or so. And then we'll come to you guys with a RFP for design work. Hopefully by the end of the summer, we'll have something. So we're working on that 200,000. We'll probably slide into 2024 a little bit, but we're working to spend that down.
Yeah, it'll be mostly design work. I can't imagine we'll be doing a whole lot. But the beauty of the CIP is that stays there. You know, it's not like the general fund budget that has to be zeroed out every year. So what doesn't get spent this year will roll into next.
So, on the newly requested projects, the Miller Park irrigation, Riverfest playground, soccer field, parking lot and restrooms, Riverfest soccer fields, were those a result of Parks Board activity?
Yeah, Brandon?
Yeah, those were all requests from Park Board.
Excellent.
Yeah, they all came together and ranked them multiple times and figured out where they wanted things to go. So yeah, that's all work for the Park Board.
Very good.
The park board's been very
Yeah, good job.
deliberative and they've been doing a good job and very enthused about what they do as well, so.
Yeah.
Good. Lori, did you get all?
So
Looked like you had
the
something.
actual building of any fields is not on here at all yet then? This is, I mean, the 200 and 360,000, those are all, that's 560,000, that's really just planning it, or do you
No, that's
expect
building
that?
fields.
You expect the 360 is gonna, that's
We'll
both?
know more after we design it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, we don't know.
That's early estimates. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the soccer fields will just be kind of a flat pad. It's not gonna be anything incredibly fancy. It might have some irrigation, but it's just soccer fields, so it shouldn't be too much
Okay.
work.
Famous last words.
That's true. That's famous last words.
You don't think we'll get a World Cup team out here
Just
wanting to
doesn't-
practice
yeah,
on the sports field?
I don't think so. I don't think
Okay.
I don't think we're gonna get Spain to come
That
out
is
here.
good. Woo! We can take that deadline off of our minds.
Agreed
Yeah.
to spend under.
Yet another 2025 deadline.
Right.
We don't need. And that would have gone a long way towards any of this, you know?
Sorry, what was that comment?
It's just that, you know, when we are spending money, sometimes we just spend them in ways that it didn't, I mean, we spend $150,000 on a parking lot and that we probably really don't need, where, you know, that would have gone a long ways to having this a lot further, and it just doesn't make sense in my mind. So I was really thinking that this was just part of, you know, it, and it's like, we've been putting it off and we put it off and we put it off, and it just keeps seeming that's how important these soccer fields just keep getting put off, and for other projects that are taking over. You know, it's and I understand all the infrastructure needs that we have, and you know, when you look at this compared to look at 1-2 years ago, when, you know, Kevin was saying, well, we should really make sure there's like $2 million worth of projects in there a year, you know, and now we're, you know, at 80 million for next year, 70 million. And I get most of that's infrastructure, but when you look at, you know, it's like, keep in mind that we have citizens that want to see money spent where they can use it too. And most of that is going to be in things like park and rec and, you know, downtown areas and in entertainment, and even though it may not be used by them, but the shelter down at Riverfest Park and things. And so, you know, we keep switching around money and putting it in places and having to do different things. And it's just important that you keep in mind that the citizens of DeSoto don't care about this water treatment for Astra or the sewer or the road out there that we're putting ourselves into a lot of money for, which we need to, I get it. But don't forget that we want to keep them happy with what they need to. That's why we do all the surveys and why we've been trying to get soccer fields built for 10 years now. Okay, my end page is over.
Okay. Any other comments on this item? If not, we will move on to advisory reports. Administrator.
Just one thing, council, next week on the 12th, which is Wednesday, we're having a public open house related to Panasonic specifically, but also all this infrastructure projects that are going on. It'll be down in the gym. The hours are 6 to 8. If you don't have an invite, don't have that on your calendar yet, get that on your calendar and come by. We'll have we had one of these in January down in the senior center. It was pretty well attended, pretty well received. We have partners from KDOT and KDHE and SRL will be there. Some of the Workforce Consortium folks, the school district's going to have representation there. The new superintendent will be there. So if you have not met him yet, it might be an opportunity to do that. Of course, the city will have a table there. It's an open house, kind of come and go as you please. There's not going to be a formal presentation, but it'll be down in the gym. So put that on your calendars. I think it'll be well attended. There's a lot of interest in it.
Okay.
6 to 8, yeah. And that was it for me. Thank you.
All right. City Attorney.
Yes, Council, I put a memo on your desk about this. We have this Resolution 950 that sets forth ranges of compensation for appointed officers in the city, as well as the compensation for mayor and city council members. I know there's been discussion for a while, at least among staff, that, given the time commitments, maybe we need to update mayor and council member pay. I believe it's been the same since 2015. And that, on the resolution I prepared, I left those blank, but currently the mayor is paid $700 plus a phone allowance, which I believe is about $100, and then council members $35 per meeting. So just put that out there for discussion if you want to give me any feedback on this. We need to update the resolution anyway, but
I think it dates back further than 2015 though, Patrick. That we may have changed something on the resolution then, but it's largely the same as it was, I think, when I came on in
that could be
2009.
Yeah, I've had some conversation with Patrick and with Mike about it previously, and certainly with the mayor's role as our community is, as our community has changed, a lot more demands on Rick's time, a lot more time away from his day job, which can create stress with his current employer, and I could see that going to something on the order of, I'm surprised how modest the pay is for a lot of the mayors around, but it wouldn't be out of line, I don't think, for it to be up $500 a month at $1,200 or something like that. Still be pretty modest, but in recognition that Rick's putting in more time than a lot more time now than it has been for years in the past. So, $500 or doubling it to $1,400 a month, I think would still be pretty modest and conservative with respect to funds, but recognizing that there is an increase in time.
Kind of on a similar vein, I mean, our council pay is almost at the point of, it's a volunteer position, right, at 35. Most of the communities around here are somewhere around, $3,000 a year, roughly $300 a month or something for council service. And it's something that I've thought about for a while, that maybe that should be, to be in line with our contemporaries in this part of the world, that council pay maybe ought to go from what's essentially a volunteer position to almost a volunteer position to a little bit of compensation for time for meetings and other items. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Personally weighing in on that, I'm fine with it paying for one supper a month. If it were doubled to one supper every other week, I mean that'd be fine. I don't feel like I'm proud to do it. I like to do it. I like being on council. I like the involvement and engagement. I don't feel like it needs to go up a whole bunch on our part, but Rick's the one you're the one person who they go to, and that is the mayor, and that's where I'd like to see.
The thing that I will say is that it's pinched my vacation time. So if I was more energetic, if I was 10 years younger, I'd work the 60 hours a week without hesitation. But I find myself not wanting to work when I get home, after 6 or 7, and now I'm done for the day. So I'm having to burn my vacation time at work to make up for the extra time that I need to spend here on city functions and efforts. So.
I attended a Linwood City meeting the other day, and I'm not sure what the mayor's pay was, but the council was $100. I was very surprised. A city that small.
I can remember sitting in a League of Kansas Municipality meeting back when Mr. McDaniel, Ron McDaniel was on, and we were talking to some town out in western Kansas where their city council members had just increased into like $500 a meeting or something that they were getting. Like, Ron, we're going back. We're changing this. It was crazy. They did something huge. I don't know why or how, but I had brought this subject up a couple of years ago, at least, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and asked for these numbers because at that point in time, I thought Rick was doing more than what his pay was at the time. Now that work has been 10 times the amount. So I would definitely think we need to increase what we do for the mayor. As far as council member positions, I'm not here for the money, so I'm not really interested in making a big deal about that, as same with Kevin on that one. So, but I do definitely think that the mayor position should have a little bit more benefit to it.
Well, I threw out an order of magnitude. What do you think?
Yeah, I was thinking, $1,500 a month or so at a minimum. So.
Yeah, there's a city down south that pays a lot more than that.
Yeah.
We do have a neighbor in the south.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's a little question about that.
Just throwing that one out there.
Yeah.
I wonder just to throw it out there for council members, do you think, like to attract, particularly given that there probably will be more meetings, more time even by council members, does it make sense to make that change? Maybe not for the members here, but, for future candidates, if, is that something that we want to be more in line with others, as opposed to $35 a meeting? So I just throw that out. Maybe we think about future members, not necessarily just today, because this resolution is, obviously will go into the future.
Right, but it would take effect immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's going to need adjusted at some point in time. May need adjustments, just a matter of how much. So back to the mayor, Rob, what do you think about order of magnitude?
No, that's more than in line with the time commitment that's being put in. I'm comfortable with that.
With Lori threw out 15.
With that 12 to 1,500 easily, yeah. I do think, and it doesn't matter to me, I consider it a volunteer position, but I do agree with Patrick that the council positions probably should have some adjustment for future councils, for future, because when you look at how often this gets updated, the future ones are to try and get quality people. They're not doing it for the money, but
Right.
We do have time away from our families and wives for different events and meetings and things like that, that there should be some consideration for the future councils in there. And I don't mind for going and staying where I'm at, but I think there should at least be some discussion on this. Because like Rick said, it's been, 2009 since it was set, so probably whatever's set is gonna stay there for a decade.
Danny, what do you think about the mayor?
I'm in agreement that with the getting up on the mayor to a higher level, and you know, I'd like to see ours get a little bit closer to the cost of internet.
Okay, now there's a good bogey. I was using it going out to eat once a month.
So enough said about that.
Yeah.
But I do agree with the rest of the staff on the mayor and definitely. And so that's all. Go ahead, Kevin.
No, you said
Sorry.
it. You said it. Good.
Okay.
I was commended
Well, what
you
if-
for it.
What if we said $1,500 per month on the mayor and $100 a meeting on council members? Or 75.
75.
75 on council members? Rob, what do you think about that?
Yeah.
75 per meeting on council members, that gets you $150 a month, that pays your internet bill, Danny.
Okay.
Is it something we want to take action on?
I wasn't anticipating that. I mean, it's a resolution. If you wanted to do that, you could, but
Does it need to be redrafted and brought back before us?
I'll need to insert the numbers that you just need to fill in the blanks there.
If you like all the rest of this, that's changed.
Oh, I didn't look at it. None of the rest of it changed.
Oh, this is.
Nothing else changed.
No, so city engineer, city administrator, city attorney, the ranges. Now,
Ranges.
those aren't specifying what any of those positions are being
Oh, okay.
paid. It's
It's
just
just the
making sure
ranges
that,
It's just a range.
that, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now, we would be within that range.
And I don't think that's a big hurry. I think we could have you come back with the completed resolution, so
Yeah.
everybody would have time to read it before
Yep.
we.
Sure.
Because, you know, just reading now, you might miss something that.
Yeah.
Well, and, I mean, the other thing, would you want it to take effect immediately or after the next election cycle, or when?
I was just asking Mike if some of the new salary folks needed some of this change.
It's just appointed officers, not, so if the mayor appoints them, even though we don't do it every year, like the mayor appointed the city engineer if another position came open.
Thank you.
Well, he's asking about other staff members.
Okay.
Oh,
Any other discussion on this? Anything else from you, Patrick?
Nope.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for the feedback.
City planner.
Just real briefly, Mayor and Council, we do have a special planning commission meeting on the 11th. It is for Flint Development. They have a site plan and a final plat. So just those two items.
Okay. City engineer.
Just real quick things that you've probably seen, they closed westbound K10 to one lane. They're gonna do guardrail work, so they can flip it over here in about 2 weeks and work on the eastbound bridge redecking. And they're only gonna do eastbound, so that should be done November 12th. I think it's not done by November 12th, there's liquidated damages, so we have that to look forward to. We should hopefully at the July 20th council meeting, have a hopefully potential contract for the wastewater progressive design build team to be able to present to you. And there's one other one, and I don't remember. The PSP that we talked about a little bit. So we do have 3 firms that have submitted. Again, I think I sent the email to you, and Danny, I've got your copies to give you. July 28th will be the date for those interviews. Since we only had 3 firms, we don't have to shortlist. We just go straight to interview. And we're working with Mid-America Ridge Council to set that. They'll be here at City Hall, and we'll figure out the time frame that that's going to be. And but yeah, we got 3 pretty good firms to evaluate. So that's my update.
Okay. Assistant City Administrator Brandon, anything for the group tonight?
Yeah, just a couple quick
Okay.
things, fun things going on in the community. So this weekend is the makeup for Top Gun Maverick at Miller Park. And then on July 15th, we have the Touch a Truck event that is going to have representatives from KDOT, the Fire District, Johnson County Sheriff's Office, Parks and Rec Department, and that is also at Miller Park. So 2 kind of community events that are coming up in the next few weeks.
Okay.
That's it.
Council comments. Kevin, would you like to start tonight?
sure. I've had some staff interaction on couple topics. So, one, I drive by regularly, Arcadian Estates. It's time for its first weed mowing of the year. So I emailed Brad about it. I think Brad and Joe have picked it up, and they were out mowing today. So it was at a point of either calling it naturalized vegetation or get the weeds knocked down, because they're about 5 feet tall. So that's being taken care of. But also the erosion control measures are in really, really bad shape. I was just talking with Joe about it. In particular, the protection at the storm drain inlets needs probably just removed and cleaned out. Some conversation about whether, I don't think we've accepted those streets into the system yet. We need to figure out what leverage Joe and Brad have over the developer to get out there and get some of that taken care of. The street lights have also not been installed. So it'd be another reason to not have that the streets haven't been approved yet. So appreciate it, Joe and Brad, you guys taking my gripes, but they're working on it, but I think it needs some attention.
Those are Evergy streetlights though, right? Those systems, right? So we have to.
But doesn't the developer installs the pole and the light?
No, actually, Evergy installs and once again, I did talk to Evergy about it. Apparently, they've told me that the transformers are now available, so they are, yeah, that's been their excuse. But this time they said they're available and they will get the poles installed and the lights up, and then the developer's actually responsible for running conduit, and then Evergy pulls the wire to the transformers. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay.
Transformer allotment's been a problem all.
That's all I got.
Yeah.
Lori.
I don't think I have anything tonight.
All right. Rob?
Couple things, I brought them up with Mike, most of them today. Talking about erosion control, the new Edgerton Road apparently needs a lot more erosion control, considering the last storm turned it into a mudslide in multiple areas, and a very bad one, to where they had to have skid steers out there getting the mud off the road. The other one is we've been having issue at 87th and Waverly with trucks deciding that parking at that intersection on 87th is a good idea. Whether it be Time Warner trucks parking to get access to the handholds, whether it be a asphalt company today that was doing a driveway, parking their dump truck right at the stop sign there where you couldn't see or get around it. With no hazards on, no cones, no nothing, and when asked about it, they basically said, "We're not moving it, leave us alone." So, been having issues with that intersection being used as a parking lot for very large equipment vehicles.
Okay.
Yeah, I just struggle what we can do to prevent that. It's just a common sense thing.
And I sent pictures to Mike, and he looks at them and just is like,
But it's odd, there's been a rash.
Does the sheriff have any
Well, yeah, I
ability to do?
yeah,
any
certainly, yeah,
If
certainly.
they patrol it during,
Well,
but
that's.
you never know when they're gonna be there.
Of course.
Right, it's just
It's random.
and the dump truck today was there for at least 2 to 3 hours sitting at that stop sign.
Yeah.
During time people are coming home from work and in that 4 to 6 o'clock time slot.
Okay.
In the past, we've sent out, during business hours, I can send out, a street department crew or a staff member to go, hey, whatever. Usually it's someone that has a right-of-way permit, or sometimes they'll have a right-of-way permit, so, we kind of have some jurisdiction. Today it was somebody paving a private parking or driveway, so there wasn't a right-of-way permit, I didn't know who it was, we didn't have that. And it was after hours, I think, when you texted, so I didn't have anybody to send
5:30.
out. So it's like either call non-emergency dispatch to have a sheriff's officer go out. So it's.
Was there a better place for them to park in? I mean, where would you tell me?
They were parked at the stop sign.
Yeah, it's just get away from the intersection first of all.
They were parked basically in the intersection.
Yeah, that's sort of common sense, I think. But there's no good place to park. I mean, you can't with a big vehicle. It's just difficult.
Okay. Kevin.
I'd like to thank Kevin, because he took over some of my complaints out there, and it didn't seem like it was only me, so thank you on that.
We've been tag teaming it.
That made me think of one thing though. I noticed one of our public works trucks working on Kill Creek the other day. That street has become extremely busy. It's only going to get busier as the traffic flow changes. But when they're outside working, if they just turn on their emergency lighting, or at least have their yellow lights on, or have some signs out, just want them to be safe. So, appreciate that. That's all I have.
Okay. Danny?
Yeah, just one thing. I'll try to keep it short. I wanted to thank the Assistant City Manager, Brandon, and Mike also, and the Street Department, and for helping with the DeSoto Garden Club for the work they did down at the end of Kill Creek Road. They did a beautiful job there. Ladies worked hard out in the heat and the sun and the plants and everything that the city helped, and with and Jay Gavin's people with the parks for getting the hoses and the water timer set up, and thanks to all of the city people that had a part in that with the DeSoto Garden Club. Of course, thanks to them, it was a job well done and very well accepted by a lot of people, a lot of calls, and just a great job. And thanks to Brandon and Mike and the help of the city, it was great. So thank you, and thank you, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Danny.
That's it.
Anything else? All right. I had it something and I lost it.
Just wrote it down.
But I do have one other a question, I guess, for Joe or Mike. Have we gotten the final plans from Clarkson for the 103rd Street project yet? Have they sent any plans to us to share that we can look at?
Yeah, two different questions, but,
Well, have they sent any final plans for us?
nothing final yet for our final approval, but they do have, I mean, this progressive design build, so they've got at least 60% design on everything. And what we've talked to KDOT about is coming to council. Again, they gave a presentation a couple months ago about the general scope of the project, but coming again with kind of some more easily digestible strip maps, with some details on the intersection design and some of that stuff to just present that to this board again, to just get our, not consent, but like just.
Well, I think it is our consent. That's our road. I think they need our approval to build the road.
True, yeah.
Put it any way you want, but that's what it is.
Yeah, but we haven't yet received, so in the end, we'll need a full final set to sign off on. And so those have not been produced at this time. We haven't seen those yet.
All right.
Joe, have you seen anything other than just the 60% that was submitted a couple weeks back?
Yeah, so they're doing in, I think, 3 different phases. And so right now we're working on kind of the Lexington 103rd from Astria and Lexington down to 95th Street. I got 60% plans on the storm, sanitary sewer, and water lines. So as they progress, if they get to that point, then that's when they start costing things out, so they know what it's going to cost and do it. But yeah, they're doing it in pieces as it's being phased, so they can construct and design and keep everything going and meet the time frame that they're supposed to meet.
Yeah, they have committed to producing the latest, greatest strip map plan view for public consumption at the open house next Wednesday. So we'll have that document at least by then to send to the council.
Sure.
So that you can have it digitally, and then we're trying to arrange them to come probably for the first meeting in August because the KDOT project manager isn't available at our next council meeting. So he'll be here in August.
Okay. Well, that didn't give me enough time to recall the other item that was on my list, so I'll have to wait for another meeting.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're adjourned.
Jimmy was nice to you?
What?
Jimmy was nice to you?
Oh, everything you did was
we're not.
Can I get you for a second, Joe, before you head out?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go around, I'm gonna get the
Yeah.
stuff for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll be right back here.
Right in front of the stop sign.
Right, right at the stop sign, like you were stopping
You being
and then